were taught that if you work hard, stay honest, and follow the rules, you will rise. That if you obey the system will reward you. But centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli warned that no system built by power was ever meant to free its people. It was meant to control them. The structure that surrounds you, the one you call civilization, is not broken. It works perfectly, just not for you. It was designed to keep you loyal, exhausted, and replaceable. Every part of your life has been engineered to feed someone else's throne. The schools that tell you to dream small, the banks that teach you to borrow, the media that teaches you what to desire. All of it was built to keep you too busy surviving to ever question why you were still struggling. You believe you are free because they gave you choices, but all your choices lead to the same destination: dependence. You are not a citizen in this system, you are its resource. Machiavelli would tell you that rulers do not preserve order for the sake of peace. They preserve it for the sake of power. The poor must remain hopeful enough to keep working, fearful enough to stay quiet, and distracted enough to never see who profits from their labor. This is not corruption, it is design. A perfect illusion maintained by fear, faith, and fatigue. You live in a cage so elegant that you thank your captors for building it. The rich do not need to steal your freedom. They only need to make you trade it willingly. They convince you that debt is opportunity, that struggle is virtue, that patience is the path to success. You are told to wait, to work, to trust, but never to think. Because the moment you start thinking, you stop serving. And that is the one thing this system cannot afford. Machiavelli warned the princes of his time to keep the people occupied with hope and distracted by spectacle. Today, that advice has evolved into a global machine that runs on your attention, your effort, and your belief in fairness. But fairness was never the plan. The truth is not that the system is failing, it is that it is succeeding exactly as it was meant to. So tonight I won't comfort you with lies about equality or luck. I will give you what the system hides: clarity. Because once you see the design, you can begin to break it. And only then will you understand Machiavelli's real warning. You are not poor by accident, you are poor by design. Poverty has always been more than misfortune. It is a mechanism. The world was not shaped by accident, but by architecture, an architecture designed to keep most men serving while a few men rule. Machiavelli understood this truth long before the modern age. He saw that rulers preserve hierarchy not through chains and prisons, but through systems so familiar that people stop questioning them. Poverty survives not because of scarcity, but because of strategy. It is the silent foundation on which every empire stands. For the few to live like gods, the many must remain too tired, too afraid, or too distracted to challenge them. From the moment you are born, the structure begins its work. You are placed in an environment where survival takes precedence over understanding. You are told to obey authority, to follow rules, to value routine. The idea of freedom is dangled in front of you like bait, but the choices you are given are controlled. You may choose your job, but not the terms that define it. You may pursue wealth, but not without entering a system that profits from your pursuit. You may speak freely, but only within boundaries that never threaten the foundation of power. Poverty is not chaos, it is order disguised as failure. The poor believe they are failing individually, unaware that they are succeeding exactly as the system intended. You are encouraged to blame yourself for your position. You didn't work hard enough. You didn't plan well enough. You didn't want it badly enough. Meanwhile, the game is played on a tilted field. The rulers set the rules, change them when convenient, and reward only those who play by their logic. They maintain poverty because it keeps society dependent and controllable. A hungry man can be persuaded, a desperate man can be ruled. Machiavelli warned that rulers must never allow equality to grow beyond control, because equality breeds defiance. The poor must feel hope but never power, progress but never escape. They are fed illusions, promotion, recognition, small luxuries, to keep them chasing comfort rather than questioning structure. Even their anger is anticipated, redirected into systems that neutralize rebellion before it begins. The system does not fear your rage, it manages it. It gives you enemies to hate, distractions to consume, and promises to believe in. Every empire disguises its exploitation as fairness. It creates the illusion of opportunity while ensuring that real mobility remains rare. The wealthy call it merit. The poor call it luck. In truth, it is design. The rulers know that if everyone were free, no one would serve. So they craft a cycle that rewards obedience with survival and punishes independence with struggle. The people learn to police themselves, to fear risk, to compete against each other instead of questioning their masters. The system thrives because it convinces the poor that it can one day save them. It never will. It was never meant to. Poverty is not the product of your mistakes. It is the price of their control. Machiavelli's warning was not about cruelty, but about clarity. Those in power will always build systems that appear fair while ensuring they never lose control. And as long as the masses keep believing in that illusion, the design will remain unbroken. Freedom, as most people understand it, is the greatest illusion the system has ever sold. You are told that you are free to choose, free to speak, free to rise. But every choice you make is already shaped by forces you cannot see. The system does not need to chain your hands when it has already captured your mind. Machiavelli understood that real control is not achieved through force. It is achieved through belief. When people believe they are free, they no longer resist. They become willing servants, guarding the walls of their own prison. You think you are choosing your path, but your desires, values, and fears have been programmed by the very system you serve. It teaches you what success should look like, what happiness should feel like, and what dreams are acceptable to chase. You are told to want more, to buy more, to work more. Yet no matter how much you obey, the goalpost moves farther away. The freedom you chase is not liberation, it is a distraction. You are running on a treadmill built by those who profit from your exhaustion. They do not restrict your movement, they direct it. Machiavelli warned that rulers must make people dependent on their rule while allowing them the illusion of independence. This illusion keeps the people calm, loyal, and productive. You are told you can vote, yet the options are chosen for you. You can work anywhere, but ownership remains unreachable. You can express yourself endlessly online, yet every word you speak feeds the same machine that studies, sells, and controls you. You believe you are living freely, but every decision is quietly guided by systems designed to profit from your existence. The genius of modern control lies in how invisible it is. You are not forced into obedience, you are entertained into it. You scroll, consume, and compete without realizing that you are giving away your attention, the most valuable currency of the modern age. You are not free because your mind is occupied. The system keeps you distracted with endless noise, so you never hear the silence where real thought could grow. Freedom today is a carefully managed illusion, maintained by comfort, routine, and entertainment. The illusion is so complete that you defend it. You mock those who question it, label them as dreamers or rebels, because the system taught you to fear those who see through it. You mistake comfort for safety and predictability for peace. True freedom would demand that you question everything, the rules, the leaders, the ideas that shape your reality. But the system ensures you are too tired, too busy, or too entertained to start asking those questions. Machiavelli would say that the best prison is the one whose walls you cannot see. You walk through life believing you are free because no one is holding you down, yet your choices, habits, and beliefs are all controlled by unseen architects. The system does not have to take your freedom by force. It only has to convince you that you already have it. The greatest weapon of control has never been the sword. It has always been education. From the moment you enter a classroom, the system begins shaping you, not to think, but to obey. You are not taught how to question. You are taught how to follow. The structure of modern education is not designed to create leaders or thinkers. It is designed to create predictable, compliant workers who keep the system alive. Machiavelli would see this as a masterpiece of manipulation, a system that makes people believe they are learning freedom while training them to accept servitude. You are told education is the path to success, but in truth, it is the process of conditioning. You are rewarded for memorizing, punished for doubting, and graded not on creativity, but on compliance. You learn to chase approval instead of understanding, to wait for permission instead of taking initiative. The classroom is your first factory, where your mind is shaped to fit the machinery of society. The system calls it learning. Machiavelli would call it taming. Because when you tame the mind, you control the man. The curriculum is not accidental, it is a tool. You are taught the history of kings, but not the strategy of kingship. You study numbers, but never wealth, politics, but never power. The lessons that could make you independent are carefully removed, replaced with lessons that make you manageable. The poor are given just enough knowledge to serve, but never enough to rule. The education system creates belief in fairness, while ensuring the hierarchy remains untouched. You graduate knowing how to submit to authority, how to meet deadlines, how to follow systems, but not how to design your own. Machiavelli warned that rulers must appear to care for the people while shaping their minds to serve the state. Modern education fulfills that prophecy perfectly. It convinces you that it exists for your growth while quietly programming you to preserve the very system that limits you. By the time you realize the truth, you are already in debt, already chasing jobs created by others, already too invested in a game you never designed. Education, once meant to awaken minds, now functions as the first step in a lifelong trap of dependence. The system fears thinkers because thinking leads to questioning, and questioning leads to rebellion. It wants obedient workers who can operate machines, not thinkers who might dismantle them. That is why schools never teach you how money truly works, how power is maintained, or how manipulation functions. The subjects that could liberate you are replaced with distractions meant to occupy you. You are trained to perform, not to perceive. So you grow up believing you are educated while remaining strategically ignorant. You can recite information but cannot recognize the structures that bind you. The system does not need to censor your thoughts. It simply programs what you will think about. Machiavelli would call this the perfection of rule, when the people are convinced they are learning truth while being quietly prepared to serve it. Debt is the modern version of slavery, refined and polished until it looks like opportunity. In the old world, chains were made of iron. Today, they are made of contracts, interest, and credit. The rulers no longer need to imprison your body when they can own your future. Machiavelli warned that the clever prince rules not through cruelty, but through dependency. A man who depends on his ruler will never rebel, and in the modern age, debt has become the perfect tool of dependence. It traps you quietly, disguising control as progress. You are told that borrowing is a path to growth, a way to buy a home, an education, a future. But every loan is a silent contract that trades your freedom for comfort. The system convinces you to live beyond your means, then binds you to endless repayment. It teaches you to see debt as normal, even noble. You are praised for good credit, rewarded for paying interest, and congratulated for being trustworthy enough to owe. Debt becomes not just a financial burden but a moral identity. The obedient debtor is seen as responsible. The one who resists is seen as dangerous. This is not economics. It is control disguised as civility. Machiavelli would have admired the genius of such a system. Instead of soldiers, the powerful use signatures. Instead of prisons, they use payment schedules. Instead of rebellion, they inspire aspiration. The people believe they are climbing the ladder of success, but the ladder is endless, and every rung is owned by someone else. You are told you can have everything now if you just agree to pay later, but later never comes. You spend your best years paying for things you no longer own, working jobs you no longer love, chasing numbers that never stop moving. Debt ensures that you remain productive, but never free. It keeps you chasing just enough hope to stay loyal to the system that exploits you. You cannot rest because rest means falling behind. You cannot protest because protest threatens your security. You are told to be grateful for the very chains that bind you. Debt makes obedience rational. It turns rebellion into recklessness. You do not need guards when people willingly police themselves out of fear of losing what little they have. The system survives because it knows you will do anything to protect the illusion of stability. You work to pay debts that were designed to outlive you. You chase ownership in a world where ownership has been redefined to mean permanent obligation. And when the weight becomes unbearable, the system offers more loans, more escape routes that lead back to the same trap. Machiavelli understood that control is strongest when it feels voluntary. Debt is voluntary slavery, the kind that makes you thank your captor for the privilege of being chained. It convinces you that you are building a life when, in truth, you are constructing your own cage, one payment at a time. Distraction is the most powerful weapon of modern control because it blinds without force and silences without fear. Machiavelli warned that rulers must keep the people entertained and occupied so they never turn their attention toward power itself. In ancient times, emperors offered bread and circus, food and spectacle to keep the masses loyal. Today, the same principle has evolved into an empire of screens, noise, and endless stimulation. You are surrounded by distraction so constant that it feels natural, even necessary. It feeds your emotions, dulls your awareness, and drains the energy you could use to change your reality. Every moment of your attention has value, and the system knows it. Corporations, governments, and institutions compete not for your money first, but for your focus, because once they have your focus, they can shape your thoughts, your desires, your fears. The modern citizen is not controlled by force, but by fascination. You are overwhelmed with choices that do not matter, opinions that lead nowhere, and information that changes nothing. You scroll, watch, argue, and consume, believing you are participating in the world, when in truth, you are merely being managed by it. Machiavelli would have seen this as the perfect evolution of rule, a system where people are too distracted to even realize they are being ruled. The powerful no longer need to censor ideas. They simply bury truth beneath noise. They flood your mind with entertainment, outrage, and false importance until clarity becomes impossible. You are kept reactive instead of reflective, emotional instead of strategic. The system knows that a distracted mind cannot think deeply, cannot plan effectively, and cannot rebel meaningfully. Distraction also creates division. The people are turned against each other, fighting over symbols and opinions while those in power remain untouched. The system gives you enemies to hate so you never identify the real one. Every argument online, every controversy on the news, every trivial debate serves one purpose: to fragment the collective mind. Machiavelli advised rulers to divide the people to prevent unity, and modern society has perfected that strategy. You are surrounded by conflict that feels personal but is orchestrated to keep you occupied. The cruel brilliance of distraction is that it feels like choice. You believe you are selecting what to watch, what to read, what to believe, but the system has already decided what will be visible. Your attention is guided by algorithms built to feed you exactly what will keep you addicted, anxious, and dependent. You are no longer a citizen but a data point, and your mind is the product being sold. Distraction keeps you poor not just financially, but mentally. It robs you of time, the only currency you can never replace. While you are entertained, the powerful build empires in silence. They know that a society addicted to noise will never notice who holds the volume. Machiavelli's wisdom echoes through centuries. When the people can no longer focus, they can no longer fight. And that is why the modern world keeps you endlessly entertained, because it is the easiest way to keep you enslaved. The greatest trick of power has always been its disguise behind virtue. The system does not control you through open tyranny anymore. It controls you through morality. Those who rule have learned that if they speak the language of goodness, no one will question their greed. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he wrote that a ruler must appear virtuous, even when acting with ruthlessness. The illusion of morality makes domination look noble. The powerful do not preach ambition, they preach patience. They do not celebrate cunning, they celebrate humility. They tell the poor that wealth corrupts while quietly building fortunes beyond imagination. By moralizing weakness, they ensure that you never pursue strength. You are told to be content, to live modestly, to work honestly, and yet, the very people who teach these virtues do not live by them. The rich glorify struggle because it keeps you compliant. They elevate sacrifice because it prevents rebellion. They have transformed poverty into a moral badge and wealth into something shameful for anyone but themselves. The system convinces you that to desire power is wrong, to seek wealth is selfish, to challenge authority is ungrateful. And so, you remain in your place, believing that virtue means obedience. Machiavelli would call this the cleverest form of deceit. When the people believe that submission is moral, they no longer need to be forced. They willingly comply. Religion, politics, and media all reinforce the same idea. Goodness requires suffering, and reward comes only after endurance. This conditioning keeps you striving endlessly for validation, never for victory. The system hides behind noble words, justice, equality, fairness, while operating by rules of dominance and deceit. Those in power are not bound by the virtues they preach. They use them as tools to keep others in check. The most effective rulers never command with cruelty, they guide with ideals. They convince the people that obedience is righteousness, that compliance is wisdom. When you believe that power itself is evil, you hand it away freely. You convince yourself that your suffering is noble and your poverty is honorable. Meanwhile, the rulers grow stronger, protected by the very morality they invented to control you. They manipulate your guilt, your empathy, and your sense of duty until you believe that breaking free would make you a villain. This moral illusion keeps entire societies docile. You work to please systems that exploit you, defend leaders who deceive you, and attack anyone who dares to expose the lie. The system rewards loyalty to false virtue while punishing the pursuit of truth. Machiavelli's warning was simple but brutal. Those in power will always use goodness as camouflage for control. They will preach humility to the ambitious, obedience to the strong, and sacrifice to the desperate. And as long as you measure your worth by their definition of virtue, you will never recognize the chains hidden beneath your halo. You were never meant to see the design. Every system that governs your life, from the schools that shape your mind to the debts that claim your freedom, was built with precision to keep you contained. Machiavelli's warning was never about cruelty for its own sake. It was about understanding how power sustains itself. The rulers of his time controlled with fear, but the rulers of today control with comfort. They do not chain your body, they seduce your mind. They make you believe that obedience is virtue, that distraction is choice, that poverty is the price of honesty. You are not trapped because you lack power. You are trapped because you've been taught not to use it. The truth Machiavelli wanted you to see is that power never sleeps. It adapts, evolves, and hides behind every moral mask the world admires. You are told that the system is broken, but it is not. It is perfect. It produces exactly what it was designed to: a few masters and countless servants who believe they are free. You are fed hope to keep you moving, fear to keep you silent, and entertainment to keep you blind. Every part of your struggle feeds the machine that profits from it. But there is another truth, one the system cannot erase. The moment you see the illusion, you begin to break it. The moment you stop believing that fairness will save you, you start thinking like those who rule. Machiavelli did not write for kings alone. He wrote for anyone willing to think beyond comfort. His lessons were not about cruelty, they were about clarity. He wanted you to understand that morality without power is submission, and power without awareness is corruption. The poor remain poor because they fight the symptoms, not the structure. They chase jobs, not strategy. They seek approval, not freedom. The few who rise are not luckier, they are more awake. They see how the system manipulates perception, and they choose to manipulate it back. They learn what the powerful have always known. The world does not reward goodness, it rewards understanding. So if you take anything from Machiavelli's warning, let it be this: stop expecting the system to free you. It never will. Its survival depends on your captivity. Freedom will not come through obedience, patience, or blind faith. It will come through strategy, awareness, and ruthless honesty. Once you stop worshiping the illusion, you can begin to build your own empire. And that is the one thing the system truly fears. Not your poverty, not your rebellion, but your awakening.